It's time for a little bit of Moon Boy content on this channel, or at least relative Moon Boy content. Obviously, we don't talk about like crazy things here, but I do want to be coming at this from a more statistical and a more objective-based background. We'll look at some probabilities as well a little bit later, but more importantly, I want to be answering the question of, or just documenting the history of Bitcoin in this case. What is the highest price that we have seen, or that we can expect before the halving? Now, the halving again is about 6 months away from now, a little bit more than 6 months away from now, or somewhere around there at least. So ultimately, we are talking about a more long-term idea, but there are several, or at least in my opinion, several things to be interested in with this, as history, might even repeat or rhyme. Who knows? Anyways, other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. You already know the rest, and let's just jump right into it. So here's a very long-term chart of Bitcoin. We're on the index for Bitcoin, and this is representing the full kit and caboodle here, the full history of Bitcoin. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw on my drawing tools, and you can see these green vertical bars. Each and every one of them represent the halving dates in the past, and this one over here in the future, presumed somewhere around like late May, early April of 2024 for the next one, obviously. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through each and every cycle and see, what has been relevant for that. And in this case, I want to start off over here in 2011, where we do see Bitcoin, breaking this long-term downtrend, rallying up and finding that next major high before the halving. Again, before the halving, somewhere between the 618 and the 786 right here. A little bit closer to the 786, but, in between there, pretty damn good. Now, also what I've done is I've measured the amount of days that it took for between the ultimate low and that next major high, like the highest price before the halving, and that was 273 days, as you can see right here. So keep that in the back of your mind, because we'll kind of come at that from a slightly different angle as well. Anyways, moving on to the next cycle in 2014, 2015. Again, same thing. Bitcoin rallies up after breaking that long-term downtrend, find its next major high right before the halving in this case, like right before it. In this case, basically at kind of the same level, a little bit lower than the 786, but certainly higher than the 618. Putting these both into perspective, pretty damn close right there, I would say. And the time taken from the lowest price on Bitcoin to that next major high was 301 days. So, 273, 301, okay, starting to, pretty close to each other, I'd say. Moving on to the next one, we do see that, well, something very similar here. Again, halving over here, highest price over here. This one actually wicks a little bit above the 786, so fair enough. But again, all of the prior ones were finding their way at least above the 618, and in all prior cases, like very close to the 786. And this one took from the ultimate low to the next major high, 203 days. So, we're looking on the lower end about 200 days, on the upper end about 300 days. For that price to be hit. And what do you know? If we go to our current cycle over here, how many days has it been since the ultimate low on Bitcoin? Well, this was the ultimate low right here. It's actually been 357. So this one is starting to be a little bit longer than what you would have expected based off of history. That does, I think that does deserve to be warranted. But if we throw on that same sort of Fibonacci from the ultimate high to the ultimate low, we can very quickly see, if I pull it through, Bitcoin has not even hit the 618 just yet, which is at 39,200. And the 786 is all the way at 50,000. So if history is anything to go off of, we would expect at least above the 618, and probably in many cases even closer to 786, or at least, somewhere in this area here, which would actually be in alignment with the March 2022 bull trap before, well, ultimate devastation was had, of course. So, that would be at around 47,000 bucks price per Bitcoin. I do think that that's rather significant. So, a couple things there. What's the highest price that Bitcoin could get? Well, if history repeats in this case, yeah, maybe somewhere around there. And still, there is, like I did say, let me see the exact. How much more time? Yeah, about 189 days between now and the estimated halving. So somewhere between now and then, perhaps. Also, while we're on this chart, we might as well bring up the MVRV. We haven't looked at this in a while because it hasn't been super relevant for a while, but we are starting to see, or not we're starting to see, like we have seen extra confirmation that Bitcoin is entering into like the next phase, if you will, where not only has it bottomed out in the green zone as it has in all prior markets, but it is now getting that first major higher low above the green zone and continuing up and forming and confirming that uptrend at the same time. So looking at this, just another thing that long term does say, the lows we're in, I think that we kind of beat that horse to death like a year ago, or sorry, not a year ago, because that was November. We started calling the low on this channel in December, and especially in January, but you can see this one continuing upwards and onwards here. So I think that we are kind of entering into that next phase where Bitcoin's, going to accelerate maybe a little bit more, maybe has another push to the upside before the halving, then goes into a more prolonged consolidation as we have seen in the past, maybe taking as much as like half a year to a year, and then probably, continuing upwards and onwards yet again. So, looking at this, I guess, we have yet another thing that does suggest that Bitcoin, could ultimately move higher, and I'd say significantly higher. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to happen exactly from this area right here. Like Bitcoin can trade sideways for a while. That's okay. It just went on a pretty nice run, 40% run. You can very easily do that. But let's say, it goes from here to there. It's another like 25% move, somewhere around there. Respectable, I would say. Well, in most markets, that would be amazing. In Bitcoin, cryptocurrency land, that's just like, all right, fair enough. Anyways, moving on now. What do I want to go to next? Let's visit this. The HPDR bands. We can see Bitcoin still kind of dancing along the top side of the 50% of historical returns range highs. Problems could start to emerge here if we do start to see closures below, which is 37,100 for the daily. It wouldn't necessarily be like a major problem. It would just suggest that Bitcoin consolidates lower first, maybe somewhere back down around the median, which is in the mid $35,000 territory. Again, I don't really have any reason to get bearish on Bitcoin, especially as long as it's above, even $33,000. Or 32.5 if you want to be like, super in the weeds with it. But yeah, ultimately still kind of favoring the upside from here. 4-hour time frame, what do we see? We see a nice consolidation. Low side of the current consolidation at 36,500. High side would be, and that's kind of confirming a breakout, would be about 37,700. Above there, Bitcoin probably zooms another $2,000 closer to $39,000. Until then, we don't really have too much to be going off of. So what else do we got? Anyways, I'll go over here for the Oracle. Just wanted to follow up on this. 4-hour time frame is still open, for what it's worth. From the same setup that fired off back on over in last Wednesday, that was when Bitcoin was at 35.6. Now trading about $1,500 higher than there. Just waiting for the closing there. What about some range statistics? Monday, of course, 45.83% of all Mondays have closed positively for Bitcoin. Average return about 2.5% on both sides, basically. So, slightly in favor of a slight downside closure there. But ultimately, not really much to be going off of, to be quite frank with you. Anyways, last thing I want to bring up is just traditional markets. We haven't focused on this for a while. Kind of the long-term analysis that we were looking on this just playing out. I guess a lot of things happened in the last couple of weeks, so maybe I should have revisited it again. But ultimately, what do you know? It looks like another higher low. Already traded above the month's prior high. I think this one ultimately goes back up to the summer highs, closer to $16,000. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Hopefully that was enough Moon Boy type shit for now. Hopefully we also backed it up as well, which I think that we did. And I think that's a good place to be leaving off. Anyways, other than that, I want to welcome back. Let's start this video over again. My brain is killing me right now. I want to wish you the best of the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.